So, welcome to Art 116. We wanted to try to revisit ideas of um, social justice, and I wanted to first play this recording. It's 4 minutes. It's Sam Sanders on Morning Edition from a couple of days ago. So I'm going to go to a screen share for that and try to find this thing. You're supposed to be on here somewhere on my thing. Let's see, is it here? Have I lost it already? There, wait, it's way over here. Okay, so Sam Sanders, he's riffing on something that he heard a lot last week, right after the riots in Washington, D.C. A lot of lawmakers were telling themselves and each other in speeches that this is not who we are as America. And Sam is here to tell us that, yeah, maybe it kind of is who we really are as Americans. And we kind of need to, face it. So let's listen to this and then we'll come back.
Over the last few days about just what that attack on the Capitol says about America. We heard the same words over and over again. This is not who we are. But our next guest says it is. NPR's Sam Sanders, host of It's Been a Minute, wrote a piece about this on npr.org, and he joins us now. Hey, Sam.
Hey, how are you, Tanya?
I am well, thanks. So Republican Ben Sasse of Nebraska actually said, our kids need to know this isn't what America is. And you call that sentiment a lie.
I think it is a lie. Yes, I do.
Say more.
I think that since this country's founding, America has been a country built on racial hierarchy and exploitation and subjugation. And a lot of that history is still present. And we don't want to talk about it or examine just how big of a factor race is in American life still in 2021. And flashpoints like the insurrection last week are just the latest chapter in a book that we've been writing for decades and centuries now. When I look at those images from last week, one of the protesters was trotting a Confederate flag through the Capitol. There was a noose outside of the Capitol, and some of those folks had on T-shirts that read Civil War. It's not new. It's with us. And it is who we are. It's who we have been.
You know what's also interesting is the perspective. Your piece was shared on Twitter more than 5,000 times, and there are different reactions based on race. So Black people responded as if you were basically preaching to the choir, and others feel taken aback by this idea. How does this lie that you write about play out every day for you?
The lie plays out in the field that I'm in, constantly finding ways to speak truth through my work. We talked about the insurrection on my show last weekend, and I got some emails from some listeners basically saying, well, it's not that bad. It's not really about this, particularly from white listeners, from white readers. I think some of them might feel that if they really speak to the reality of race in this country, it implicates them too. To which I say, yeah, it does. It implicates all of us. But how do we move past it and get better until we acknowledge that?
That's the big question. If this attack represents an element of who we are, and some people can see it while others cannot, how do we actually move forward?
I think there's a few things. I think we have to start drawing some through lines through the things that are happening in this country. Charlottesville, the church shooting in Charleston, the synagogue shooting in Pennsylvania. These are events that are about race, and it is racial violence. This is a through line and a pattern that stretches back through our history. So one, we've got to do that. And two, I think that when these racial flashpoints arise, we have to fight the urge to do things that would keep us from speaking truth. A thing that I notice a lot when there's racial trauma that happens in America, a lot of good-hearted folks, a lot of good-hearted white folks, they want to absorb a community's pain. And I think a lot of white people think that once they see that pain, they feel like they've done something, but they actually haven't done anything. There is no action. And so what I wanted to do with this piece was to not just perform Black grief again, but to challenge the quote unquote good white people out there to start asking themselves how they perpetuate lies about race that continue to allow racism to run this society.
Well, you can read Sam's essay at npr.org. And Sam, thank you so much for this article.
Oh, thank you, Tanya. I appreciate it.
Sam Sanders is host of NPR's It's Been a Minute. Donald Trump, there's been a lot of
Stop. Okay. I have to stop it on purpose because it doesn't like to stop otherwise. So that is the challenge. It's the challenge perennially for me and for white people and people in general who take my class to, not only think about race and social justice and those kinds of things on one day a year, Martin Luther King Day, or not at all, and resist it, but actually, try to do something to try to make a change to move forward. And so we do this as an annual observance, but that's just the beginning. And so trying to do something with our graphic design, and then trying to make little changes in our lives, trying to change the fabric of American culture that is rife with injustice and baked in racism, is something that I've been thinking about a lot more and more this year with all of the protests throughout the entire spring and summer and fall, and then this riot at the United States Capitol last week. So it's something that we can't fix in one day. But it's something that we can, try to resolve inside of ourselves to do better with, and to try to be at least conscious of as we're moving forward. Okay, I'm going to step down off of my little soapbox now and invite anybody who happens to have a project that they want to share or they want to get some feedback on, even if it's not finished. And I'm all about that. Oh yes, these may not be finished projects, but we can definitely, give you some feedback, and you can continue nudging them or working on them based on the kinds of inspiration and possible advice that you get here. Is there anybody who wants to volunteer, their piece? Anybody have something that's on your an open document on your desktop that you can share with folks? I'm going to go ahead and enable multiple participant sharing here. And I'm looking around at all of you lovely people who don't want to do anything or aren't ready for it. If you do, you could, there's a person. Yes, person.
I'm willing to
You
share.
want to? Great. Okay. Well, I've enabled screen share. So if you can go ahead and share your screen by clicking the green button on the bottom of the screen, and then trying to find your document, and then click on it to highlight it. And then here it comes. Oh my God, she's doing it. All right.
So I chose Rosa Parks.
Yeah, tell us all about it. This is good.
Yeah, so I found a bunch of her quotes, and this one I think spoke to me most. It says, "Racism is still with us, but it is up to us to prepare our children for what they have to meet and will hopefully overcome, or hopefully we shall overcome." So I did a few different ones. This is my first one. I really tried to focus on the racism is still with us and the we shall overcome, because I think that is, the most important parts of that statement.
Well, hold on. Okay, go ahead. No, you go ahead. You go ahead. Show us the other one.
I have 3, but I'll stop at 2 for now, if I can figure out how to.
Okay.
This is my second one. Just a little bit different font and setup.
Okay.
Much different.
Looks good. Okay.
All right, and then I do have one more.
All right. Well, can you slide back up to the? Oh, okay. Show us the third one. We'll hit
Okay,
it all on
sorry.
the same. If it's all on the same ladder, this is good.
Yeah, they're all pretty similar, but just a little bit different fonts and coloring.
Yeah. So tell me, do you have a favorite among these 3?
I think this first one is my favorite, just because it highlights, my favorite parts of what she said.
Okay. Well, let me. Can I be so bold as to try to do a little bit of summarizing of what I can see here, and maybe put a narrative or a description to what you've gone through, because maybe all of this stuff, conceptually, and you've got this all down, or maybe you were doing this all as a gut feeling and you really haven't maybe worked through what you've actually accomplished here. So let me do that first. It's interesting, you have a really long rectangular horizontal composition here. She's sitting on the bus. It's obvious that she's sitting on a bus looking out bus windows. And she's kind of in silhouette, looking out the bus window and kind of looking off to the right and kind of looking away from the text box that's behind her in the black area to the left. And so it's interesting that you're using a kind of a handwriting font at the top and the bottom. Racism is still with us up on the top line, and we shall overcome on the bottom line. And then you're using a different font for the major portion of the text box. And I'm interested in the colors, the fill colors that you've chosen for these reverse type text boxes. This one feels softer because of the handwriting kind of font. It may even be Edwardian script that you used top and bottom. And then the serif font that you've used in the middle. You're drawing upon more traditional, you know, what do you call it? No, the term evades me right now, but anyway, it feels it's trading in the culture of the publishing industry and tradition and all of that, which is really cool. I'm interested in this one because I think, you know, these two, she's looking away from the text, and then the third one, is she looking toward the text? Is her orientation different in the third one?
Yeah, so the original picture, actually, there's another person next to her. So I kind of just put this text box over it and filled it. So that way the attention was more on her. So that's why I did that. And then I figured out how to crop him out.
Yeah.
And then just added a text box next to him in this one. So that way she's looking more at like prepare our children for what they have to meet.
Yeah, that lines up with her eyes, with her eye level and stuff. And, you know, it's really cool sometimes if you can have a really important word or something, or a really important line up exactly on the same horizontal line or axis as her eyes, because that can create an internal visual linkage in the composition, which, you know, links the person or her thoughts or something to the text, or especially a really important word in the text or something like that. So here you've got racism in a different size and in red. And so, and because it's red, of course, it's about passion and blood and violence and that kind of stuff. But you know, and because of these particular fonts, which is kind of an interesting font that has the first letter is a little bit larger point size, and then the rest of them are all uppercase, but they're a slightly smaller point size. And that's kind of an interesting, you know, font to play with. It comes off more strong, more stridently in terms of the way it reads and expresses itself. It's a stronger message than the first one. So it's interesting. You can kind of, as a graphic designer, you can calibrate your message depending on the kinds of fonts that you choose and how strongly, you know, they resonate with the message. And so you are calibrating different strengths of the actual same words just based on the different kinds of fonts you're using. And I think it's beautiful. Thank you for showing us 3 different ways of doing it, because each one has a slightly different tone in the way you presented it. Is there anybody else who would like to just reply or respond to this? And you don't have to do it, you know, in technical terms. You can just say, wow, this really speaks to me, or, you know, this is really cool, or something like that. You know, that would be just fine if you want.
Yeah, I was thinking just with the way they are composed and with the font, like the first one reminds me of something I would see in a book, like a social studies book or something. And then the last one reminds me more of a poster or like a PSA kind of style one. It's more like an action sort of feeling. And then the first one is more of a reflection and a chance to learn from it sort of feeling, if that makes sense.
Thank you.
Yes, and that's a brilliant observation too. That's really nice that the last one is more of a call to action and the first
Yeah.
one is a more of a reflection. And really it's just about the way that the composition has been worked and the different choices of the different fonts that have been applied. Excellent, wonderful. Okay. Anybody else want to chime in on that one? Or you wanted to just hide that again, didn't you? You didn't want anybody else to see it or talk about it. Fine. Okay. Is there anybody else who might happen to have something that's on the go here that you might want to have a little bit of feedback on, that you played with this? And, some of us are early adapters and we just jump right in and do the project because we have a certain comfort level with it. And others of us who have never done this ever are still trying to warm up to the idea of how to do this and that. And you need to see a bunch of examples. And I get that. So it's okay. If you don't have something ready to go today, that's fine. It wasn't expected. And we're going to try to evolve our way towards getting projects going by Friday. And then, hopefully you'll be able to crank something out over the weekend and on Monday to try to turn it in on Monday. So last chance for anybody else before, of course, I run roughshod into my little spiel, because that's what I do. Because
I could share mine.
Amelia, please do. That'd be fantastic. You go
Okay.
ahead and hit that screen share button on the bottom of your screen, and then you have to find and highlight your thing. And here it, oh my God. Oh my God. Okay. This is wonderful. Please tell us all about this.
Well, I actually went through a lot of different pictures. I had some of the Capitol building raid, but I couldn't find a quote to go with it that made it sound like I wasn't supporting it. So I just scrapped that idea and found pictures of actual like BLM protests. And then I know Martin Luther King has talked about the two Americas, and then lots of celebrities, sports players. I think LeBron James said this, the "we live in two Americas" thing, and he's very influential. So
Okay, cool.
I figured that was good.
It is good. I love that you have used black text and white reverse text in this thing. And I love the embedded meaning of that, as well as just the way that it kind of modulates, the text. I'm going to ask you, how many text boxes do you have in this? Is every word in its own text box?
It is, but I tried my best to like center them, line them up with each other.
Okay. The only thing that I would maybe play with a little bit is the spacing of the word "to." I can see that you took "we live in two" and you tried to space those all tight together and evenly, and then there's a little bit of a gap to the thing of Americas. And I was just wondering if "two Americas" kind of goes together more, and maybe you'd want to nudge the word "to" closer to Americas and leave your gap between the black text and the white text, just to try to see what that's like.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I have another one for you, because I'm just kind of brainstorming all over the place with this one. Instead of the word "to," TWO, you could maybe try the numeral "two," the Arabic number two. We live in two Americas. I love how vertical this vertical column of text is. And then, so it'd be kind of cool to just see what the number "two" might look like in there, to really create a vertical major axis, and then Americas across the bottom of it as a horizontal axis that kind of changes direction with the word Americas. So that might be a thing to try too. I love how your column of text separates the two groups in the composition, the power group on the left and the protest group on the right. I just absolutely like what your text is doing in the negative space in between the two groups. That's really cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
In fact, I may be hogging up and taking all the oxygen out of this conversation. So at the risk of inviting anybody else in, would anybody else like to come in and give a little bit of feedback about this particular graphic design?
I just really feel like I could see this going across Facebook. Like, I feel like I would be scrolling across Facebook, like just through political things and seeing this and really having it stand out to me and thinking that it's just, and I love it. I love the way
Wow,
that it's
thank
like
you.
separating the two. And then America's is like long, it's a longer word. And I really like the way, like where it's at placement, because it really drags you to the two people. Cause it's almost like in the middle of the cop and the woman that's talking. So it really makes you look at the whole picture. And I love it.
You wanted to say we live in two Amandas instead of Americas.
You know, I wouldn't be opposed to that.
I like the choice of font. I don't know which font this is, but it is just really strong and bulky and bold. I like that you were able to condense down the amount of text into a limited amount of words, because in graphic design, less is more. And so when we can try to edit ourselves down to just the essential message, that's even good. And I may have said it to this class, and I may not have before, that sometimes we even feel a little bit bad and a little bit creepy editing somebody else's quote, like, you know, the great Martin Luther King or somebody else, if we're going to take out some of his words because, you know, he was making a speech or he was writing a book and his whole quote gets to be a little long and wordy. And sometimes you can make it a lot more to the point and pithy by taking out some of the extra connective tissue of words and just leave in the most essential words. You can kind of reduce a quote down to its essential qualities and it still reads as a Martin Luther King quote or something. So anyway, I like the succinct quality of the quote. That's really good. Or the message, you know. Fantastic. Anybody else want to do this? No, because it's back to me now. It's always back to me. Okay. We've been at this for about a half hour or so, and I probably have 20 minutes recorded. What I would like to do is share a little bit of stuff from my screen with you guys, if you don't mind, because it takes up a little time. But before I do, I'm just going to look and one more time, give you guys a chance who hasn't had a chance yet. If you want to share something, I don't want to pull all the oxygen out of the room. So if you'd like to share a project, you can. And then for the good of the order, I'm going to share my screen here. So here we go. Okay, so I've been playing. You know what I do. I play. So this is what I had going on Monday afternoon when last we met. We had this kind of stuff, and I'm going to get some of this stuff out of the way here so that we can just look at this. So that was one. And this was from last week, and I was playing with the concept of, you know, American carnage as a quote. That's the president's quote from his inaugural speech 4 years ago. I found this at the NPR website. It was illustrating that Sam Sanders thing. So I thought I would click on it and drag it back in here and play with it. So I was playing with this over the noon hour today. And I was playing with ideas of Republicans being the law and order party, because that's something that they're really super fond of running on and stuff like that. And I don't mean to make this political, even though it sounds really political, but I was playing with all kinds of ideas about lies, propaganda, and rage clicks in social media, and really in talk radio for the past 30 years. People have gotten addicted to rage. You know, we think about, you know, funny old men who like to sit around and listen to talk radio for hours and just get angry. And, you know, anger and rage is like a drug. It gives you the same kind of dopamine hits. It gives you the same kind of endorphins that drugs do. And, you know, we've had all our other problems with drugs, with painkillers in the past 10 years and other kinds of drugs. But rage is a drug too. And rage can be, you know, inflamed with propaganda. And, you know, the Nazis, the fascists in the 1930s, they figured all this stuff out, and they really used propaganda and radio broadcasts every day, and in all of the publications and stuff, state publications, to whip the public into a frenzy about, being anti-Jewish and, supporting the dictatorship, of the Nazis and the Nazi Party and all that kind of stuff. And that's not lost on politicians or people who want to make money in social media through rage clicks and that kind of stuff. We get rage bait, we get rage clicks. And so there's a whole bunch of people out there who are being manipulated to listen to this stuff and get good and angry because they feel real fun. They feel real good when they get good and angry about how bad the other side is. And that's something that we might have to just stop and do a gut check on as a country, because it's not healthy. And it has wound up in a large group of people going to a demonstration, a protest rally, and then turning right around and heading down the street with their marching orders and attacking the US Capitol and doing, a little insurrection. It's amazing to me that it came to this, and yet it is just the product of propaganda, of the repeated messages over and over again, creating rage in the listener, and then calling them to action. And after they've been outraged for such a long time, the only outcome is going to be violence, and that's how it works. I know this is kind of way outside of Martin Luther King Day and civil rights, and yet it seems like it's kind of part and parcel of all of this stuff right now. And it might just be something that we need to look at. So I'm playing with all of these things, and these are just individual, they're individual text boxes. So I'm pushing them around to try to see, what kind of a word cloud that makes up there in that negative space that's above this guy who's in the suit and tie in the smoky doorway right here at the Capitol. And I don't know whether this helps or not, because I can pull this out of the thing and it almost, see, less is more. And it's almost better to not have that little, bullshit of the Law and Order Party, but just talk in terms about propaganda, lies, and rage, and see how that works. So that was that one. I was interested with this guy with his Confederate flag kind of walking through the corridors of the US Capitol building after they broke through the doors and kind of went inside. And so, at first I made a political statement here, and I, said something about the Republican Party, and then I edited it. I thought better about it, and I changed it around, and I just, I wanted to still talk about what Sam Sanders was talking about, the lies that we tell ourselves. And so he was talking about the lies we tell ourselves about race, and I thought I would throw in there the lies we tell ourselves about politics. And so this is, I forget which font this is. I have to highlight it. It's Impact font, and I've got it in 40-point type right here. And this is just one text box. But what I did do is I highlighted the font, and I gave the font the color of white instead of black. So the font is white, but then I came over here to this next thing that is text effects. And I came down here to outline, and I gave each letter, come on, stay with me now, a black outline. So you can see that there's a little subtle black outline around each letter and then white. And so when you've got that busy background that's a white wall with gilt framed pictures and windows and drapery and white marble carved statue bust in the background and all that stuff, sometimes you have to have white with a black line around it so that it stands out more starkly and better against a background like that. And so I just wanted to show you that you can, highlight your text, and then you've got these text coloring tools up here. You can do an outline or a shadow or a reflection, and you can apply that to your text if you want to, as well as applying different colors of fill to the text. And so now I've got to get out of this. Okay, so that's what I did over the noon hour, because what else is there to do except eat lunch? And then there's this guy again. Do you guys have any feedback, questions? You can tell me anything. We've become friends over the last 2 weeks. And so you can tell me, Mr. Fritz, you're full of shit, and that would be fine. You can call bullshit on something. And, this is a design class where people speak their minds and say stuff, speak truth to power and tell me stuff that's on your mind, and I will respect you. So if there's anything that, if you feel like I'm off base, or if you feel like there's a way of focusing the message better so that it's a stronger message without being offensive, I'm always open to those kinds of things to help me out here. Any questions, any comments about the this kind of approach to graphic design? I'm going to open you guys back up so I can see you all, and then see if there's microphones coming unmuted, or people scratching their heads or trying to come up with something to say. But otherwise, we're good. We're good. And I thank you for being so patient while I do my little political screed. And again, I hope that I'm not offending you guys too much with my outrageous politics. Both sides are outraged. It'd be nice if we were all on one side. Sometimes, people thought that wars were good, and even the Cold War in the 1950s and 60s with the Soviet Union was good, because it seems like we always need some kind of an enemy to rally around and fight against. And since the end of the Cold War in the 1990s, we've started to fight with ourselves because we don't have an enemy to be united against, to fight against. It's the psychology of the nation state in the modern era, which is kind of a scary thing. So anyway, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and come back to you guys. Way too much politics in an art class or in a design class. But maybe this is a breath of fresh air for you who like the idea of discourse and discord, because maybe you find truth in that kind of struggle and challenge. I hope so. We are going to get into things that are as mind-numbing as making color wheels next week. So we're going to get into the actual color theory portion of this class very shortly, but I did want to try to give you a chance to make a profound or provocative statement about something that's important to you. And graphic design is the perfect way to do that, because we can find strong images, we can come up with strong statements, and we can combine that strong image and statement in an artistic way to make it as focused and and as sharp as a scalpel, to say exactly the kind of thing that we want and to elicit the kind of reaction that we want to get from our readers or our viewers. That's the art of communication as far as graphic design goes. And politicians on all stripes, on all sides, use graphic design, use messaging, use propaganda to try to hone and create a message to get out to their followers about how they feel about what their party stands for. And it's really important to know that we are powerful in the way that we can control and put out messaging, because we can put together image and text, and it can be quite a powerful combination. So I'm going to leave it there because I've been talking a lot and I think you guys got bored with it. So continue the work. This is what we are doing, bringing text and image together. Those of you who shared today, if there's anything that you can do to play with what we tried, you can do it as another version, because you can copy your entire thing and dump it into a fourth or fifth version, and then play with those spacings or play with those little changes that we might have talked about, or you might even have a better idea. And the rest of you have seen how we are playing with fonts and the size of fonts, the type sizes, as well as how these things get positioned with the imagery. And so I invite you to play our game. So try to have something ready for Friday, even if it's just a bunch of stuff just thrown together onto a Word document. And I'm happy to help you just kind of push and nudge and adjust things to try to bring them closer and tighter and stronger as graphic design, as a successful communication tool. That's a good place to end. I'm going to end it there. I'll see you guys on Friday again at 1. Keep working on this and keep up the good work, and have a good rest of your week. Goodbye for now.